Compartimento bala, filha da puta.
Olha o gás!
Olha o gás!
Pode ficar tranquilo que eu só quero o dinheiro. Vira isso pra lá. Cortesia da casa, meu irmão. Vamos lá, passa o dinheiro, vambora. É da igreja, mano? Não sou da igreja assim, velho.
Tadinho, virou Zé Pequeno e caiu matando. Antes de escurecer, ele já era dono de quase todas as bocas da favela.
Libera ele aí. Que isso, meu irmão? Que não é esse aí? Isso é ouro, cara?
The film begins by showing a group of youths led by someone named Rocket. They are caught in the middle of a clash between gangsters led by Lil Dice, who have been surrounded by the police. Apparently Lil Dice and his men were ready to attack the police, and vice versa with the police who were prepared in their respective positions. Before moving on to the next scene, let's first flash back to the events of the previous few years. When the City of God was still under construction, the poor people who did not have a house were directed by the local government to occupy the houses that had been prepared. At that time Rocket was playing soccer with his friends, visited by Lil Dice and Benny, his friends. Even though at that time he was still small, apparently he already showed a thirst for power. It was apparently inspired by a local gang called Tender Trio. This gang has 3 members, one of which is Shaggy, who is the leader, as well as Benny's older brother. While the other 2 people are Clipper and Goose, who is the older brother of Rocket. The 3 of them are known for their mischief. They often commit criminal acts, such as the robbery of a gas distribution car, using a gun that is unknown from where. The trio's Tender gang forced the driver and his assistant to stop. They robbed the money and distributed the gas to the residents there for free. Their action only stopped after the police arrived. They ran off to the field to split up and pretend to play soccer so they wouldn't be suspected. After the police left and the conditions were confirmed to be safe, Shaggy then shared his loot, where the children were very happy because they could have money. That's why this gang was respected by and was well known in Rio de Janeiro. Unlike Goose, he instead shared the stolen money with his father via Rocket. He also said not to say that the money was a gift. As evening comes, the gang gathers to enjoy marijuana. It was also seen that Lil Dice had been invited because he was the naughtiest kid out of all the kids there. While they were high, they were planning to rob the gas car again later, but suddenly he interrupted and said that he had a better plan. At first they all make fun of him, but Shaggy asks the others to listen to his idea first. Apparently Lil Dice asked them to go to a motel, because a lot of rich people checked in there. They leave. Lil Dice is assigned to keep watch outside, but he insists on joining the others, because after all it was his idea. They also argued at length over Lil Dice's refusal. He finally agreed after being promised to be invited another time. For now he was only told to keep watch outside. If any police came, he was told to hit one of the window panes as a sign. They also began to carry out their actions by first locking up the motel employees, then they began to scatter by entering room after room while holding a gun.
Pode ficar tranquilo que eu só quero o dinheiro. Vira isso pra lá. Cortesia da casa, meu irmão. Vamos lá, passa o dinheiro, vambora. É da igreja, mano? Não sou da igreja assim, velho.
But alas, they haven't searched all the rooms yet. Lil Dice threw a window as a sign that things weren't safe anymore. They ran out running to save themselves by taking one of the guests' cars. Lil Dice disappeared somewhere so they couldn't find him. They assumed that the boy had been caught by the police. It turned out that he gave that sign not because there were police. Apparently he just wanted to have fun with the gun he was carrying. He also entered each room alone and shot at the motel guests. Meanwhile, because Shaggy could not drive, the car crashed into a tavern. They also threatened the diners to shut up and not report the incident to anyone. They fled in dispersal so that they would not be easily traced. Someone named Shorty, who doesn't like Goose, reports the incident to the police. A moment later the police come to the motel. In addition, the police also conducted a large-scale search into the forest for Goose and Clipper. Because during the search it was night so they were lucky not to be found, while Shaggy ran away to his girlfriend's house and was hidden by his girlfriend's family. Clipper, who was in pain due to a sprained leg, overheard the police talking that they were going to kill all members of the Tender Trio. Knowing this made Clipper think about his safety. Finally, when morning came he decided not to want to be a criminal anymore and to repent to God. On the way home, Clipper ran into police who were searching for the trio's tender. With ease and reassurance he kept walking straight. In fact, the police just passed him. On the other hand, apparently Goose had made it home. He was immediately scolded by his father because he was found out to have been a member of the Tender Trio. His father asked him to immediately stop being a delinquent and help him sell fish. After that, Goose hid his gun in a drawer. He forbade Rocket to open the drawer, let alone play with it. After the robbery incident, the police continued to search the city of God, but to no avail, and not a single resident wanted to say who the real Tender member of the trio was. 3 months later, Shaggy, who never leaves the house, starts to annoy his girlfriend. She advises him to find a job immediately, because according to her, the trio's Tender gang is finished. Big changes have occurred to Clipper, who is now diligent in attending church, while Goose is now selling his father's fish. Goose also seems to have secretly fallen in love with Shorty's wife, who often buys his fish. Because they have the same feelings, they also make love to each other. Unfortunately, it seems that Shorty found out about it and then beat Goose all out. He also beat his wife so badly that she died. Meanwhile, in another place, Shaggy intercepts a car on the road with his girlfriend to escape. Unfortunately, the car suddenly breaks down, so he has to push the car first. This was accidentally seen by Shorty, who was being arrested for the murder of his wife. Then he complained to the police that Shaggy was a member of the Tender Trio who had committed a robbery at the motel the other day. Upon receiving the report, the police, of course, immediately chased him. Unfortunately, Shaggy didn't have time to get on when the car was revived. He was also shot and tried to run to hide, while his lover, who was in the car, could only watch with regret, because she could not save him. Due to the many shots fired from the police, Shaggy finally died on the side of the road, causing a crowd of people, including a journalist who documented it. It was then that Rocket became interested in the camera and also the profession as a journalist. On the same day, it turned out that Goose, who was running away, met Lil Dice, who was sharing the loot with Benny. It turned out that after the incident at the motel, the two of them went to town and again committed a robbery. Goose, who at that time saw a pile of money, immediately grabbed it. At that time, Lil Dice was about to give the weapon that was given to him at the motel. What happened next was really unexpected. He shot Goose sadistically. After that incident, he and Benny intensified their brutal actions. Robbing, killing, have become commonplace for them. They eventually become the people most wanted by the police. Lil Dice, who was thirsty for power, then had the idea to seize control of the city's drug dealers and make him the only strongest person undefeated. In order to strengthen his position as the most powerful person, he went to a shaman. From there, his name was changed to Lil Zay. Then he was given an amulet necklace for good luck. The next day, his attempt to take over the Mafia business begins. Lil Zay will kill anyone who gets in his way without hesitation. He also visited all the Mafia leaders, then killed them mercilessly. On the same day, he and his men succeeded in taking control of the city of God, except for a mobster named Carrot, who he didn't kill because he was Benny's friend. While Rocket, who is still in school, has now made new friends, they often spend time together and capture the moment with a cheap camera that he has. There is a girl in the gang that Rocket likes. She is Angelica, but unfortunately she is close to Tiago, someone who is still in the gang. Because their age is still unstable, they also want to try something new, namely drugs. Tiago said that the best drug is cocaine because he often uses it. Because Rocket wants to get Angelica's attention, he will find the drug for herself. Rocket finally goes to one of his friends named Blackie. He is Carrot's accomplice. The transaction had not yet been completed when Lil Zay suddenly came and started a riot because he wanted to take the place away from Blackie. Rocket, who at that time was caught trying to escape and was almost killed by Zay, luckily Benny held him back and explained that Rocket was Goose's younger brother. After successfully taking over Blackie's place, Lil Zay became even more powerful and made him the biggest drug dealer after Carrot. They began to launch their business by using children as couriers. He also did not forget to pay bribes to the police as hush money to keep his business running smoothly. It turns out that Tiago often buys cocaine from Benny. Due to frequent transactions with him, Benny is interested in Tiago's dressing style. Starting from there, Benny completely changed his appearance and made Tiago his fashion consultant, and they often attended parties. Benny's presence seems to knock Rocket out, because Angelica seems more interested in Benny. To treat disappointment and also fill his time, Rocket finally applies for a job at a supermarket. Just a few days of work, suddenly came a group of boys who called themselves the Run Gang. They turned out to be a gang of thieves at the supermarket. Because of that, Rocket was affected by it, so he was fired. His boss thought that he was part of the gang. The gang apparently often got into trouble. They often stole drugs from Lil Zay by pretending to be couriers. Feeling annoyed with the kids' behavior, Lil Zay beat them up. They ran away. Unfortunately, the 2 children of the gang were left behind. The climax was when he ordered his youngest men to shoot one of the 2 annoying boys. While Rocket is growing frustrated, he feels that there is no point in being a good person anymore. He and his friends tried to rob the bus assistant, but because the bus assistant had been kind, they stopped the action. They also tried to carry out further robbery attempts by visiting a shop. Instead of robbing them, they even chatted with the shop assistant. She even gave her telephone number. After a long relationship, Benny finally followed Angelica's advice to leave the city of God. While Lil Zay also starts courting a woman, unfortunately, the woman already has a boyfriend. He approached Benny and tried to prevent him from leaving. He threatened to attack Carrot if he didn't do what he wanted. Again, Zay had to be disappointed because Benny was sticking to his decision to leave immediately. He returned to the party and gave Rocket a camera as a gift. Of course, Rocket was very happy to receive it, because it was an expensive camera that he had always wanted. The party was even more lively. Suddenly a faint sound of gunshots was heard, making everyone run. It turned out that someone wanted to kill Lil Zay, but the wrong target hit Benny and shot him to death. The death of his only friend made Zay very devastated. He blamed Angelica for her death, even though he actually knew that it was the work of Carrot's gang. That same night, Zay gave up all his troops to attack Carrot. On the way, he ran into a woman who had rejected him earlier while she was alone with her boyfriend, who turns out to be Ned. To repay his heartache because he was rejected, Zay raped the woman right in front of him. It didn't stop there. Zay went to Ned's house and shot several of his family members to death. Carrot, who knew about the incident, immediately came to Ned's house. Then he gave him a gun to avenge him. Based on the grudge that he could no longer hold back, coupled with Ned's experience in the military, he came to Zay's place and tore him apart so that he was frightened and fled. Since that night, Ned officially became a member of Carrot's gang. They robbed banks in order to get money to buy weapons to prepare for war against Lil Zay's gang. One day, Ned was shot by Zay's men, while Zay was arrested by the police. He was then interviewed on television. His name also became the news in the newspaper. The war between the 2 gangs is in the public spotlight. The police are trying to overcome it. Meanwhile, at his base, Zay gets irritated to see Ned being scrutinized by the media. Then he made news how scary his gang was through a photo. He asked Rocket to take a picture of him and his men using full weapons. Rocket then asked his friends' help to print the photo. But unfortunately, the photo was actually taken by a journalist, which was then used as a newspaper headline. This made Rocket panic. He immediately went to the reporter and scolded her. But his anger immediately subsided when a female journalist named Marina gave him some money. Because it was already spread through the newspapers, Zay was of course very happy, which meant that he was getting famous. Lil Zay immediately gathered the Run gang to be given weapons as additional strength against Carrot's gang. From here we are taken to the beginning of the story, where Rocket was trapped between the police and Lil Zay's gang. Then came the sound of gunshots that killed one of Zay's men. The shots turned out to be from Carrot's gang, and war could not be avoided. They were chasing each other in the battle. Gunshots were heard in every alley, while corpses had also been scattered everywhere. Rocket captures the moment with his camera while staying in a safe place. After the members of the 2 gangs run out, Zay is finally caught and put in a police car. Then Rocket came out of his place. That's when he managed to get a picture where Lil Zay is free after bribing the police with all his wealth. Not long after, Zay was shot dead by the boys from the Run gang, as revenge for having killed one of the gang members before. The war photo that Rocket submitted to the publisher so that it became the newspaper headlines, he also got a very large fee. Meanwhile, the Run gang and its members plan to replace Lil Zay's gang, and are determined to become the strongest in the city of God. After that incident, Rocket changed his name to Wilson Rodriguez, along with the end of this film. That's all the recap. Don't forget to share happiness with the whole world and creatures on this earth. Thanks for watching, and we do really appreciate it if you subscribe to this channel. We're signing off, and see you soon.